Hello and welcome to the third lesson in this particular unit. So our topic today, perimeter of polygons and circles. So what's your goal today? I want you to be able to calculate perimeter. That's what it comes down to. So what are we doing first? What is perimeter? So hopefully you are able, or you do recall, what perimeter is or what it stands for. So perimeter is the distance around an object. So we are looking for the distance around an object. Okay? So how far is it to around the outside of an object? So we have a couple basic shapes here in the note. So the first one I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail because you need to know a little bit more about it. So the circle is a special one. The circle, you need to know a couple of terms here. The first one is, if you go through the center of the circle and go all the way across, that is what we call the diameter. All right, so that is the diameter. From the center to the outside edge is what we call the radius. Diameter, we represent with small d, radius, small r. All right, so then to calculate that distance then, so the circumference is equal to, and there's two formulas because you have diameter and you have radius. You have pi times diameter, or circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Hopefully some of you remember pi is just a number. Pi is equal to, and for this course we can just go with 3.14. So there is your formulas for circumference. Now, that is multiplication in there. So usually if there's no symbols in there, we assume multiplication. So I'm just going to put little x's in. So pi times diameter, 2 times pi times r is your formula. For a square or rectangle, I'm just going to give you two of the formulas. So if we have a square, all sides are equal for the square. So perimeter is going to equal 4 times the length. What happens if they're not equal? Well, then we have a rectangle, and that would mean that two sides are equal. So for example, these two could be the same, and these could be the same. And usually we use length and width. It doesn't matter which one you classify as L and W. So the perimeter for a rectangle would be 2 multiplied by length plus width. All right? And again, if there's no sign in between, we assume multiplication. All right? So there is your square or rectangle. The remaining shapes, and I'm just going to do this in general because it applies to them here. So basically what happens, if they're all different lengths, there's no real formula to deal with these different shapes. Not easily, I guess you'd say. If they're all the same length, you can group them together. But for argument's sake, worst case scenario, perimeter is simply length 1. So really all you can do with the perimeter here is take the lengths and add them all up. So L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus however many lengths exist here. So it's just one of those things with the odd shapes. You just got to take the lengths and add them all up. A couple of them have special formulas, like the circle, like a square, like a rectangle. If the triangle has all the same sides, then you can multiply by 3, but in general, that's what the approach is going to have to be. All right. So I have a couple of examples to go through. First one's a word example, a word problem, so it would be more like the second half of the assigned homework. Circular pool has a diameter of 20 feet. Determine how much trim is needed to go around the edge of the pool. So you're putting the white trim or the trim around the edge of the pool to hold the liner. I'm going to give a circle. I'm going to provide a diagram here just so I have something to point at and talk about. So again, this is the key here. You have to be very careful with the difference between the two. If people are going to make a mistake, this is where it's made. Diameter, remember, diameter is the distance across the whole circle. So that's the 20 feet right there. To calculate the distance around the outside of the pool, we have two formulas to choose from. You know the diameter, you know d, so we need to pick the correct formula. So pi times diameter. Switching over, 3.14 times 20. And now let's just calculate our work from this point on. So 3.14 times the 20 gives us 62.8 feet. So therefore, the distance around is 62.8 feet, or 62 feet and say 10 inches. All right. Now, do you have to convert? No, I'm going to let you array this unit with not doing the conversion, so you can use the decimals with the feet. I know we've practiced converting back and forth, but for this one, I'm more interested in being able to do the actual calculations for a perimeter. Now, down below, I have two shapes I want to find the perimeter of. So the first one, turns out it's a square. How do I know it's a square? Because the diagram indicates these hash marks, and since each one has the same type of hash mark on each side, it indicates, this tells us that each length is the same. So you'll notice that there's only one length provided here. It says this side is 3 meters, but because of those hash marks, I know this side's 3 meters, I know this side's 3 meters, I know this side's 3 meters. You can add up the 4 sides, or for people that realize that this is a square, you'll see that the formula is 4 times the length. So our perimeter then would be 4 times 3, and it would be 12 meters. So therefore, perimeter is 12 meters. At the bottom here, the picture I have, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-sided shape. It does look like all the sides are equal length, but again, drawings are not to scale unless noted. So because it is an odd shape, the only way to find perimeter is to use the formula of L1 plus L2 plus L3, so on and so forth. So we need to add them all up. I'm going to circle the one I'm starting on. So I'm going to start with 2, and I am going to go same way a clock goes, clockwise. So 2 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3. Now you just have to enter that into the calculator. So what do we end up with? We have 6, 10, 15, 23. That's the final answer. So 23 meters. So therefore, our perimeter is 23 meters. And there we go. That's all there is to perimeter, but the key is to remember, and this is so important as we get later on, it's the distance around an object. So it's around the outside of an object. So please remember that when you're going through and doing your calculations.